Hi, this is Ed from Exotic Blanks, and once again we're going to do a video on the pirate bone, which I did yesterday, but today we're going to do it a little differently and add a couple of things that I think will make the results slightly better. So we're going to kind of whip through the turning of the bone. This is twice the speed that I actually turned it. So that will get done relatively quickly, but I thought I'd leave it in just so that you can see how it kind of exposes the pirate bone as you turn the blank. Once again, this is Alumilite, and once again you can see that it's easy to get ribbons off of the blank. It's an easy material to turn. By way of kind of a review, yesterday we did one of these, and I was not real happy with the way the bone section turned out because it didn't really shine and it was a little softer. So the purpose of this one is to play around with some CA glue. As you can see, I'm putting on thin CA on the bone section. It changed the color to brown, but I don't think that there's anything particularly wrong with that, and it does lighten up as you do the final turning of it and so forth. This was supposed to be to harden that section, and then I planned on doing more turning on it. So this is not the final look. This is just to harden up that section. I actually did this and then I left it on overnight and came back the next day to clean it up and re-turn it a little bit and try to do the second CA application, which you'll see here shortly. Now I've done the second turning the next day, and I'm just kind of looking at it to see what it looks like, and it was pretty hard. It had substantially changed the character of that, quote, bone, unquote. So I was pretty happy with the way it was going to work out. I did turn off a little bit more and then started doing the sanding. When we get to the sanding, it is 400 grit and then 600 grit. And that was done before I put on the thin CA reinforcement. But for the time being, what you're looking at is the finishing turning of that blank, just so that it would be the right profile, or the profile that I like. Again, if you've not heard the other video, turning this is not difficult. Even though there's a difference in the density between the material that's bone, which is softer, and the Alumilite, which is a little bit harder, you don't notice that when you're turning and the lathe is going at 3,000 plus RPM. You really don't notice it at all. It's very, very simple to turn, and the Alumilite is wonderful to work with. So to quickly review, what's happened is I've put a thin CA coating on just the spots that I thought were weak, and then let it sit overnight. And then I came back and did the sanding, or additional turning, and cut off a little bit more material. I did find that the material that I had tried to harden did indeed harden. The CA had soaked in far enough to do some good. So I turned it down to the proper profile, and now I'm sanding with 400 grit, and then I will sand with 600 grit. Most of the CA is gone here. You're not really sanding any CA except on the spots where that, quote, bone, unquote, material is, which has now been hardened, and you can actually see it shines a little bit as you run the sandpaper over it. So you realize that it's going to turn out much better than it did yesterday, when it seemed to be kind of dull and we couldn't really get a good shine on it on the Triple E and White Diamond. So I'm pretty happy with the way this one turned out. As you can see, I've stopped the lathe and let you see what it's going to look like. Then move the tool rest aside and start doing thin CA. And the thin CA is a very, very thin coating. I didn't do a lot of this. I just put on a thin coating of CA so that I hoped that it would carry a nice shine. That was put on once, and then I waited about probably a minute, if that, and put on the second one. And total time, as the video showed, was 2.5 minutes from start to finish, and I left it all in, so you're actually seeing everything that happened, and it is in normal time. It's not accelerated. So this is what it actually looked like, how long it actually took. It was not a difficult process, but it really did make a difference in the way that the pen turned out, or the pen blank turned out when I was finished. Once this CA coating has been put on, I let it sit for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then I came back and did a sanding with the 600 grit. And I thought I had the camera running. It turned out I didn't. So you're going to miss that. But it didn't take long. The purpose of that was simply to make sure that everything was flat and even, and that didn't feel like there were any valleys and hills and all those things. I really don't care what happens to the CA at that point. You may look at it after it's finished, and this is a picture after it was finished. You may look at that and say, well, you sanded off all the CA. That's fine. I really don't care. All I wanted to do was make sure that I would reinforce those spots that were not giving me a good shine yesterday, and hopefully they were going to give me a good shine today, and it did work. So here you see me going to my buffing, and I start with the Tripoli, and quite honestly, I was not sure how this was going to turn out, so I was very gingerly with it to begin with. And all in all, what I would say about this is if you treat it a whole lot like ebonite, where you don't do a lot of pressure on anything, but you do let the Tripoli and white diamond do its own job without doing too much pressing, you will find that the results turn out to be quite good. I took it off and flipped it end for end, and then went to the white diamond. After going to the white diamond, I looked at it in good light, tried to figure out if I had any spots that needed more help, and basically that's what happens here. You're seeing me go back and forth to the light and then come back to the Tripoli to try to take off any minor scratches that are on it. When it's done, I like it not to have any scratches at all. I like to be able to look at it and see a nice clean line when I look for a reflection line. And you'll see at the end of the video that I show pictures of the finished pen blank, and it does have a good clean line across it. It is nicely shined, and it's a good looking pen. So this is how I did it, and I hope it works equally well for you. From here on, you'll see some additional pictures, but all I'm going to do is wish you good turning, and thanks for watching. This is Ed from Xotic Blanks. Bye now.